Alfred, I'll apologize in advance because Paul's
Sure.
Canadian, and so he's got a slight. He might not be as up to speed on some things, but here's my confusion, Alfred.
Mhm.
It I don't know, maybe I expressed confusion in a way that I don't know, because you're saying I want to call in and say, from a Christian, here's why I voted for Trump.
Yes,
Uh,
you guys often
uh,
talk
um,
about.
yeah.
Mhm.
What's your primary reason as a Christian for voting for Trump?
Sure. Well, I believe that God is a God of peace. And I voted for Trump because I thought, and I still think, he'll end the bloodshed in Ukraine. I think it's immoral what's going on there. It's
Alfred,
immoral to
Alfred,
probably.
Alfred, no,
Yes.
I don't take you seriously. You've called before with this God is a God of peace, and you think Trump is the president of peace. After what happened in the Oval Office just the other day with the president of a country that's been at war for years sitting there being berated by our president while the rest of the world points at us, we are becoming the Christo fascist. Trump is in the Oval Office trying to lecture Zelensky and talking about World War III. And you're calling in to suggest that Trump is going to bring peace to Ukraine because Trump is a man of peace and Trump is a man of God and God is a God of peace. Let me tell you that even if there's peace in Ukraine, a lasting peace in Ukraine does nothing to demonstrate that Trump is a man of God, that God is a God of peace, or anything else. So all you're actually saying is you think that Trump is more likely to create peace in Ukraine than somebody else, the other candidates, right?
That's one of my points.
Okay. Is Ukraine going to exist at the end of this as an independent state, or is Russia going to control it?
Well, I don't hate Russia. There's a lot of Russia
Alfred,
phobia on this.
Alfred, I didn't ask you if you hated Russia or anything else. You are approaching, like, once again, dishonest as fuck caller level. I asked,
I'm sorry.
in your estimation, well, you think that peace is going to occur in Ukraine. Is Ukraine going to be controlled by Russia? Is that what you consider peace?
If people aren't dying and they're not being press ganged into a
Yes,
war they can't win.
I'm sorry, Alfred, but the lack of people dying is not the same as peace. And you can have nobody dying with an absolute dictatorial control that does not allow freedom. We're not in favor
Mhm.
of that.
So you're willing to fight this war to the last dead Ukrainian, is what it sounds like to me. It's
Oh,
immoral.
it's not
No,
immoral to defend yourself from invasion from others.
some of them it's not a choice. They're being press ganged into fighting, and many of them are
Alfred,
leaving. The Russian soldiers
Alfred,
are finding 4 year
Alfred,
old boys
fuck off.
fighting.
Alfred, yes, I will fight to the death for freedom. Get some integrity. Stop supporting fascism because you think that you're comfortable in a fascist peace. I don't care why you voted for Trump. You voted for the worst world.
Okay. May I ask a question?
I guess.
Thank you. I consider myself something of a follower of Sam Harris. I have 4 of his books, and I know that he went through his, there's no God phase, the earth isn't 5,000 years old. And I'm happy for him that he got through that phase. I've discovered Nietzsche more recently, and he went through it too, and he was much more sophisticated, so it was even shorter for him. And I mean, I don't mean an insult. You're, you, what, it's been over 20 years, and you're still in this there is no God. Oh, prove to me there's a God. Like Nietzsche and Sam Harris were above all that. Why are you still in this mode? Just curious.
Because I'm better than Nietzsche or Sam.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they kind of moved on past it.
Yeah, that's their problem. Much like you've moved beyond freedom to just being okay with a status quo that doesn't allow for freedom and individuality and just allows for peace at the expense of those things. If Sam has in fact moved on to where, by the way, does Sam believe in God now, Alfred? No, he doesn't.
That's a good point. No, he
Does
doesn't.
Sam believe that religious arguments are valid? No, he doesn't. Does Sam believe that it's rational to believe in a God? No, he doesn't. Does Sam believe that Trump is a man of peace? No, he doesn't. Does Sam agree with you on Trump and Ukraine? No, he doesn't. So while you can point to Sam and Nietzsche and think that in your view of what you think is sophisticated, they considered this God thing and moved on and left you guys alone. The reason I'm better than Sam and better than Nietzsche is that I won't leave you guys alone. I will not stop pointing out that the theists have continually failed to meet their burden of proof and have continually made the world worse. And I'm not convinced that Sam has moved on from any of those things. But if he did, it wouldn't matter. Because while you want to pretend that you're somehow comparing and evaluating whether or not Sam is more reasonable than me, or I'm more reasonable, or if I've graduated enough, at the end of the day, you still haven't demonstrated any good reason to believe in God. And I am here talking to hundreds of thousands of people demonstrating why there isn't a good reason to believe in God, doing it over and over again, and correcting the misinformation that you try to spread that diminishes freedom and dignity. So I'm definitely better than you.
Alfred, your
Okay.
question is like calling up a fourth grade teacher and saying, why do you go on and on about fractions and go on about multiplication tables when there are so many mathematicians who do much more advanced algebra than that, and they're multiplying matrices and doing all these things and differentiating and all this stuff? And you're like, no, because we're here addressing the fifth graders is the answer to the question. We're talking to
That's a good.
people who are
I
not.
like it.
Cool.
Okay. One thing I would note, you guys were talking about the existence of Jesus, and like this is established in academia. Like, there's nothing we can say with certainty about the
Alfred?
past.
No.
Alfred, I don't have any problem at all with the fact that most historians think that Jesus existed.
Mhm.
I'm not a mythicist, but the mythicists have a point. And historians think that Jesus existed because when people are referred to in documents that are generally viewed as historical, as if they
Mhm.
existed as a person, then we just presume that they were, because it's not as likely that they were made up. I'm not asserting that
Mhm.
Jesus did not exist. I'm saying that apart from the assumption historians make, which may in fact be reasonable, there is no way to confirm that Jesus existed, that he said or did anything, that any of the miracles associated with him occurred, that he was killed and died and stored in a tomb and resurrected. None of those things are historical facts that are confirmable. When you try to suggest that us merely pointing out that mythicism cannot be falsified, that nobody's
Conspiracy
demonstrated
theory.
it, when you point out that historians generally accept that Jesus existed, you are no longer engaging in things honestly, because neither Paul nor myself are mythicists, and neither of us are saying that we can confirm he didn't exist. The fact that historians use methods that generally assume people existed does not, in fact, confirm their existence.
Sure, and history is a
Yeah,
different field. There's no experiment you can run to demonstrate Caesar
Correct.
existed. It's
Correct.
yeah.
But if in
That,
fact Jesus existed and Jesus was God, God wouldn't need us to run an experiment. God could confirm it right now to everybody, right?
mhm.
And you
Why
perhaps
doesn't
weren't
he?
listening
Well, I'll
carefully.
just note that
I have a whole chapter. I have a whole chapter in my upcoming book about how defending that Jesus existed. So I'm absolutely no one on this show,
there's too
you know,
much.
again,
I mean,
is
and
attempting
especially
to say.
cover up. Like in the Gospels, the way the story is told is the Jewish crowds were responsible for the death of Jesus, and it looks to be like a cover up. Like the Gospel authors wanted to get along with the Romans.
Alfred, I don't need you to give me what your take is on the Gospels. I need you to present evidence that the Gospels are telling a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now,
No, well,
Can
if
you?
you want.
I don't think I could provide anything you would accept, which is fine. I understand how you evaluate evidence.
Now, let me ask. When you say you don't think
Sure.
you could provide anything that I would accept, is that because you are irrational and accept things without sufficient evidence, or because my standards of evidence are higher than they should be?
I think it's a mix of both.
Okay. How could your evidential standards be too high for the claim that there is a magical being that is eternal, exists outside of space-time, exists potentially as a trinity, came down and took human form to sacrifice itself to itself while performing physics violating miracles in order to serve as a loophole to allow us to experience an afterlife that God is in control of? How can your standards of evidence be too high for that claim?
Well, I would just note you used the word magical, and as soon as you said that, I basically tuned out because, like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
look at it
Well,
from my perspective.
Alfred,
Do you?
if
Sorry.
if some being is able to violate the laws of physics, is magic not a viable description for that?
Sure. The word also has its sense, as I'm sure you know, and I don't feel like I'm dealing with an honest person when I hear that word.
You are. You are. And the reason you feel that way is because you're not an honest person. Because I just sit here
You
and
can't read my
presented,
mind.
shut up and listen. I just sat here and presented you with a dilemma to address. And instead of addressing the dilemma, you once again, as you did previously, made it about me. So when I asked you how it's possible to have standards that are too high, and your response is, well, as soon as you said magic, I tuned out. Well, go fuck yourself, Alfred, because I'm sorry that the word magic used to describe your magical God is as a bridge too far for you. Can your God, can the God that you believe in do things that we would accurately describe as magic?
Um, if you wanted to, sure.
Can, sure. If somebody turned loaves and fishes into multiple loaves and fishes, would that be magical?
Don't get so defensive.
Wait, would you
could
answer the fucking question, you dishonest prick? Would that be magical?
Why are you so mad at me? I have nothing but
Because you're
goodwill for you.
because you're a dishonest prick. Because I'm sitting here, I'm going to mute you. I'm sitting here doing all the work in this conversation. I'm the one that's doing the actual thinking, that is addressing, not just me, Paul is too, but I mean, with respect to you and I'm asking you very specific questions designed to expose your flawed thinking. And instead of answering them, you are attacking me personally as a red herring to hide the fact that you do not have an answer for these things, that you are, in fact, advocating for irrational beliefs. And every time I expose the fact that you, instead of presenting evidence, instead of presenting argument, instead of defending your claims, instead of answering the question I ask, you keep making it about me. Can you have an honest discussion, Alfred? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, it cut out. Would you say it again?
Can you have an honest discussion, Alfred? Yes or no?
Yes. Can you read my
Will
mind? What's your
you, will
procedure?
you, will you have an honest discussion here? Yes or no?
I have been. Yes.
No, you haven't, you fucking liar. If Jesus turned loaves and fishes into multiple loaves and fishes, could that be accurately described as magical? Yes or
Yes.
no? Cool. Why, when I asked that question before, didn't you say yes?
Well, I told you that
Why, when I asked that
when
question before, did you not say yes?
I didn't like the way it was phrased. The
I
word
don't give a
magical
shit
has
what
a
you liked.
writing.
The answer was yes. The correct answer was yes. I asked you a question where the correct answer was yes. And that's how you move the conversation forward to the next step. But you didn't like the way the question was phrased. And you don't like the fact that I use magic to describe something that can accurately be described as magic. And then when I ask you the
including in the
questions that
Bible,
it
by the way.
posed, what's that?
I was including other people in the Bible referred to Jesus as having magical powers. Like, so everyone around Jesus, by the way, used the Greek equivalent word of magic. But carry on. Sorry.
Wait, no, but
No.
what?
It's fine.
Why not
My
refer to him as Sky Daddy? I mean, that's the tone of it.
Why
I
not
He's
feel
refer
not
to
like
a
who
God
as
clone.
what?
should be accurately referred
Why
to.
not refer to who as what?
Why not refer to God as Sky Daddy? And then, he technically could be referred to that way. Well, it's very
Okay.
deriding, and it's like,
Okay,
what?
Alfred, first of all, I will refer to God as Sky Daddy on occasion if I want to. And I don't care if it offends you, because you can be offended as much as you like on behalf of your fictional being until you demonstrate that
I'm
he's
not.
real. Are you going to fucking put up or shut up? Because I think you're a dishonest fucking troll, which is why every time we try to get you to defend your belief, you stop and don't. So have an honest conversation and defend your belief, or go the fuck away. Your call.
Okay, you interrupted me. Are you going to apologize?
I hung up on Alfred. No, Alfred, I'm not going to apologize for interrupting you. I'm not going to apologize for repeatedly pointing out that I asked you questions that you refused to answer while trying to address me personally. See, because I legitimately am concerned here. The legitimate concern is that if you think that it's reasonable to believe in a God, and I don't, and we have access to the same information, one of us is wrong. And so when I ask you, is it the case that you are irrational and are accepting things based on insufficient evidential standards, or that I have standards of evidence that are just too high, and that's why I view this as irrational? One of those two is a possibility. And unlike you, Alfred, you dishonest fuck, I presented both of those and asked you which one of those two is more accurate and how you could defend it. How on earth could your standards of evidence be too high? You are deciding that there's an all-powerful creator being that exists outside of space-time that came and took human form in order to perform miracles and sacrifice himself to serve as a loophole for rules that he's in charge of. And your standard of evidence for reaching this conclusion, which not only dictates everything about everybody's life, but everything about everybody's afterlife as well. Your evidential standard is, what was that again? There's a story in a book. There's a story in a book. And historians by default tend to think that somebody existed if they're referred to as if they existed. Yeah, for the Bible tells me so. And your standard of evidence, by the way, Alfred, why don't you accept the other holy books that have different stories? What is your What is your criteria that allows you to say, I'm going to accept the Bible story, but not the Quran, not the Bhagavad Gita, not the Upanishads, whatever. Pick your holy book from whatever. Why this one? You got to make the case for that. And if you could make the case for that, there is no way in hell you would have responded to my question by asserting, well, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe I'm a little too irrational. Maybe you're a little too hardcore. Oh, you just said this is true. Is it rational to believe that that chromosome 2's fusing event that distinguishes humans from our ape cousins, is it rational to believe that that was altered by a god rather than a natural process? If I were to say to you, is it the case that I'm more irrational for believing that natural processes led to that than you are for believing that Magic Man Sky Daddy did it, since all of those things seem to bother and offend you, even though, how could I possibly offend a god? If you have evidence for something, you just show the evidence. You don't tap dance. You don't sit around and go, yeah, well, you're a big meanie. You rudely interrupted me. Are you going to apologize? No, I'm not. You rudely wasted my time, my co-host's time, my viewers' time. Did you apologize? We repeatedly asked you questions that you refused to answer and then turned around and tried to attack us personally. Did you apologize? How dare you suggest that I need to apologize for interrupting you? Interrupting you is my fucking job. All right.